I'm Ed Bennett, and I'm the research specialist in the Art and Technology Department. And we're going to look at the context and tools that we use to develop the ArtBus project and explain like why it's here and what it does. Always keep your eye open for what spin-offs you might have. And one of the spin-offs that we've had is learning how to do surface mount electronics. So what makes surface mount, the reason it's even worth saying anything about it is because it's the key to making small things. And what makes it possible is that the parts sit on top of the board instead of having pins that go through the board. So any contemporary piece of electronics, well, they've cleaned up. They've gone and cleaned up. Any contemporary piece of electronics is made with parts that sit on the surface of the board, hence the name surface mount, rather than having pins that go through the board. This started like in the late 80s. These are through-hole components, and they are necessarily large because the holes can only be so close together. With these, they can be tiny fractions of a millimeter apart. So what we're learning how to do here is to work on this scale. I designed this board for surface mount components, and as an experiment and in pedagogy and in just capability of the department, we've learned how to do this stuff. So the next step is shrinking it down one step further by going to an even finer pitch of surface mount, so that hopefully we can cut the size of that board in half. By the way, I should have mentioned this is an ArtBus analog input board, and we know that because it says analog. So the surface mount is one of the spin-offs, one of the advantages that we have from doing the board. This is our electronics lab. What the room is for doing electronics at the intersection of media and non-media based art making. So there's this area of overlap between media and non-media, and this is the area where we take care of things more like doing sound interfacing with computers and things like that. The workstations around the room are, they're not actually old Mac computers, they're just old Mac monitors. These are where we program microcontrollers. We're using PIC chips at the moment. There are other platforms we're looking at too. We've had classes that used microcontrollers off and on since the middle 90s. And you know, as the tools change, we change the lab. The Microchip Corporation PIC microcontroller product line is what we program here. I teach the class from time to time. We program in C. And it allows us to do standalone microcontrollers, or it allows us to do interfacing to multimedia. The split between people who want to use microcontrollers for a dedicated control, like for a kinetic art piece, and the people who want to use it in multimedia is now about 50-50. So when we teach a microcontroller class, the microcontroller class has to address both need sets and both points of view. And again, one of those need sets and points of view is media related, sound, video, and the other is not so media related because it has to do with object making that has no pre-existing context. The kinetics areas, they either always stick us in the back of the building or they hide us in the basement. And Anna is going to be surprised by us if she's in here. Anna is the facilities manager, and she has the whole lab torn apart right now for summer inventory and reorganization. So we work with a lot of discarded and cast off materials, especially mechanical components, which are getting really hard to find.
How come?
Because, well, for instance, this is a mag stock, a full coat deck from the film video department. And this is what they used. They had a servo system that locked a bunch of these to the film. So you could do your editing or you could project things in real time. And it's just loaded with like really precious, hard to find, expensive mechanical components. But this is the end of the line. There's no more of this stuff out there. So it's really just a change to digital that is starting to cut into our ability to scrounge. We come from a different place than most people do. Anna normally keeps things like really ship shape, but she might be unhappy to know that we're taking pictures of this. But I love the grand and glorious mess. It makes me feel very much at home. So basically this lab, this is not a general purpose shop. There's no bandsaw. We don't generally do much woodworking. This is basically for making parts that fit together for doing kinetic art. So this is where we come from. This is where our electronic sensibility comes from, is doing this stuff. And there's a lot of crossover in the sound department too. We get a lot of their students who take electronics classes, and they take things like the kinetics classes, so that they can, here, let me close this, okay, so that they can build their experimental instruments and so forth.